Now I go here. I haven't done this. Okay. I should be live. I am live. I did it. So, yes, I really am live. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you until is empty one, and I see Shuttle.io. And hopefully, we'll be joined by some other people very soon because I see people piling, which is good because I want to talk about sales and only sales. And I want to take a lot of people's questions because I love sales. I've been good at it. Everything has been good, and I want to share. Um, and especially as we go into 2021, because everything is changing so much, and we're all not sure what's going to happen when we get to the other side, other than that will be received by Amazon. So I see people are here. And hi, Matilda, how are you? Matilda was at that time the third person to see my log. Since then, there's been my daily COVID log that I keep. Since then, there's been one more person, and there's been five people now. So ultimately, they're all going to have to battle it out because there can only be one. And I hear Nancy. Nancy?
Yeah, I can't get, I'm trying to get the
Hmm.
thing, it doesn't go on.
What is that?
I'm trying to watch it, but
Really?
yeah, the arrow to click, it doesn't do anything.
Try it again and let me know.
Okay.
All right. You might have to refresh it. Okay. So I want questions, but first, as I'm waiting for the questions to come in, Daniel Babbitt says my question doesn't fit. I don't know because uh, you and I have exchanged DMs, so I have a sense of who you are. And I know you're in sales, and I know the kind of general region you are. So I'll take your question also. And if you're a startup, because I saw some questions that people were asking about like building a sales team, which is a really interesting question, but it's hard to be responsive to it because there's no prescription. So I really have to get a sense of um, what what the company does and who the customers or the prospects are and how well defined the company is. So I did a podcast with Jim, and that was awesome. And I was the first person to be on his podcast twice, and I think that's a testimonial to my extreme sales because I did it, and I take all these things as kind of small victory, right? It's kind of cool, and maybe it's a big victory. It'll be a big victory if I do number three. If I do number three, which I'm already pitching him for, awesome. That's like a huge victory. And then I have to go for number four. So Daniel, no, please. You said the question, and I'm fine with it. Whatever it is, if it's a long question, I can do it as a speed round. Matilda, I'm waiting for your article about colleges. I didn't forget. I'm an extreme salesperson, which means I also have a really good memory. So I'm going to scroll here, and I see Chuck is here as well. I want questions because this is only going to be about sales. So I'm going to start off then, and I'll let everybody kind of get into it. So the first thing is I get asked a lot is people ask me kind of what the tricks or what the gimmicks are, and you can never really start there. There really is no tricks and there is no gimmicks. Um, so yeah, Chuck, I see that. So thank you very much. You can't really start with kind of the middle, or you can't really start like if it's an alphabet, you can't really start the alphabet on D because your dictionary is going to be much too short. So you really have to start with what is sales and what your own self identity is. I think the self identity is the most important part because that's where people really have a lot of reluctance. The person who has to sell something doesn't consider it part of their identity. And in a sense, they're ashamed of it. And that's a really, really bad thing. So you should never, never be ashamed of it because you've got to bring it into your own identity. And I'll give you a little bit of my own background. When I started off in sales, I knew I was going to be very good at sales, but it took me a while to feel comfortable with it. When I was kind of finished with that part of my career, I started looking back a little bit, what made me successful and kind of putting all those pieces together that I never really made into a kind of cohesive philosophy. I knew it as it was coming together throughout my career, but I never kind of assembled it into something that that I could communicate. So I could kind of communicate anecdotes and little bursts of information and little blips here and there, but nothing that I would say that was complete, that took everything that I knew and kind of squashed it down into something really, really small. Um, and I'm skipping around a little bit, but back when I was in sales and I would see other people selling, I would just sit back and watch. And I would sit back and watch the people who really failed and they really shouldn't have been there. They didn't feel comfortable with it, and they were kind of deceiving themselves because they would get in early, they would leave late, but that's not what sales is. That's them trying to persuade themselves and to kind of deceive themselves and their own identity into the effort. But I wanted to get questions because I could talk about myself all the time, and I always do it. And in a way, this is kind of part of the investor series. So I see Ty the Judge here to listen and learn, but that's not good enough because it's not just about listening and learning, because so far there's been nothing to really listen to and nothing to really learn from. Ask about sales. Whatever it is you do, you're always selling to somebody, and even if it's just yourself. So many companies are going all in on unconscious bias training instead of selling stuff. Until is empty said that, and I'll put that up here. I don't know. I can't really tell you because I don't know. That would be unusual because companies still have to focus on revenue and they still have to focus on bringing in business. And so I don't think they, as much as they want to be activist, I think they also have to bring in sales, and that goes in first. So is it just me where connection is pausing a lot? It could be. So important to have a product you can sincerely recommend. So No Worry says that. Yes, that's very important. But keep in mind, you can tell yourself it's an important product and you can genuinely believe it's an important product, but that doesn't mean it is. So you really need your prospects to tell you that it's an important product. And once they become clients, you need to get referrals from them. You have to. And if somebody asks me about that, I'll be happy to explain that process. But you need your prospects and your clients to tell you that it's important to them. And this way you get a sense of why, and in their own language, and how they view it, because it's going to be a little bit different than the way you view it. And most likely their description of your product is going to be a lot more elegant. They're going to cut through all the crap. All they're going to tell you is what's relevant to them. And there's not going to be the bells and whistles attached to it because they really don't give that a lot of value. So I'm going to scroll through. After setting up an appointment over phone, do you check in via email day before or attend without checking? Hold on. After setting appointment. Okay. So Red Wizard says, that's a nice picture, I think. After setting the appointment over the phone, do you check in via email day before, or B, attend without a check-in? So I punish people when they don't make appointments, when they don't keep their appointments, but I don't really check in with them the day before. I don't think it's necessary because, of course, you're sending them a calendar invitation. And within that invitation, you're also setting the expectations for what will occur during that meeting, as well as if they have to have any paperwork necessary ready for you. And particularly, you'd like to get that paperwork in advance. So it depends on what you're selling to them. But even, on that very first call, if you cold call them or however it occurred, there has to be proper expectations set, because now there's an assembly line, right? And you're putting them on the belt. And as soon as you got them on the phone, they're going on to an assembly line. Now that if they're not a good prospect, you can chuck them off the assembly line. But as soon as they pick up the phone, you've got to get them on that assembly line. So there's a sequence to it. So that means that once you book that appointment, you've already set in their minds a couple of different expectations. One of them is that they're going to give you referrals because you're going to use a lot of your own discretionary effort. You want to have them be a satisfied client, but that also means that you're going to be taking away time from your own prospecting, right? So in exchange, because you're going to be taking away from your own time to bring in new clients, you're relying on them for referrals. So that's part of the expectation that has to be there. And also, if there's any paperwork, again, that's needed in advance, that expectation has to be set also, because you need them to have an emotional commitment to the thing. And we're trying to convert them into our advocate. So if you've already booked it, then most likely philosophically, they've already agreed with what the product is or what the service is. but now we need to get them on the assembly line and just push them through. And it'll be comforting to them because they'll feel it's very professional, and they can kind of see it as their own progression. So okay, so let's see. I think I answered that question. So I'm not even seeing what these questions are. So do you believe on occasional discounts and promotions? I said price of my own subscription, by the way. Yeah, well, it depends on where you are within the company. So I can't really tell you whether it's your own company or whether you're working for somebody else. So I don't really know what the pricing discipline and kind of the how rigid it is, and where the company is in its life cycle, and what the other prospects look like, and what the competition is out there looking like. But it depends really on how you sold it, because there's always going to be an intangible quality to a product, or there should be. If you've sold it right, there's an intangible element to it that doesn't really fit on a spreadsheet. So they've already kind of looked at everything against each other, even if they haven't committed that to a piece of paper and kind of itemized it and kind of cross-tabbed it and did everything in advance of your meeting with them. So but the intangible really is what I described in that very first call that you're doing with the person, which is you're going to apply a lot of discretionary effort. And that's something that you can't really see on a spreadsheet that they're using to evaluate everybody. So the reason you're also telling them that very early on is so that they won't have that field within it. It's already just an understanding. But occasional discounts and promotions, I don't know about promotions. It really depends, because I'm not sure what ancillary products you have that you can promote. And I'm not sure, there's some, what the cost of kind of cross-pollinating them is, and how it works within the organization, or if it's just you yourself and you say, buy this and we'll also give you that for half price. It depends. So there's lots of dynamics to that. Discounts, yeah, I mean, ultimately, but it depends also on how you make money, right? If you're making money via commission, then it really is, you don't want to compromise your own commission. If you're working for a company, it's very important that you try not to, because if you're working for a real and a profitable company, commission is a form of revenue share, right? And it's all you're going to get from revenue share. So you're going to get a salary, but your income is really going to be that revenue share. So you don't really want to compromise it too much. You want to push it onto the company, but occasionally you're going to have to do it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it also depends on how frequently you're touching the client. Is your expectation going to be a high use client? And it also, is this a contract that's a year contract where you're going to be able to kind of upsell them, or there's a process that goes through a renewal with them to upsell? So own company, all mine, trading newsletter. It depends. There's a lot of people doing that right now. So there has to be something that differentiates, and the differentiator can't just be stock performance. There's really no intimacy to that, because that's almost a commodity product in itself. And one person's return is always going to, they're always going to, there's going to be a little bit of braggadocio in it. And even if you can kind of document it, people buy intimacy. Intimacy is a premium product. So you've got to capture the premium for that, and you've got to know who your clients are and who your clients aren't. So it really depends. So Daniel here says, in a podcast I did with Jim, which I love that, you spoke on being available to clients 24 hours. True, very true. My wife's in the other room, and she can tell you, I mean, taking phone calls, taking texts and emails all time of the night. And, I didn't really mind it. It causes me anxiety and it causes me stress. But, for me, I like to sell, right? It's a big part of my own identity is I can sell, and that the clients trust me, and I can get it done. And I like the acknowledgement. I like the reward from it. I like the kind of emotional, that whole kind of fulfillment feeling. So, yeah, I mean, but keep in mind, you're always selling. And this is something I stressed in the podcast with Jim. It's something I'll stress to everybody. You're always selling a little bit of yourself, no matter what it is, whether you're an artist, whether you're an accountant, whatever it is, you're always selling a little bit of yourself. So you've got to recognize that within your own identity, that you are selling a little bit of yourself. And you have to make sure you're properly compensated for it, because you are giving away a bit of yourself. It's fractional, but it all adds up as you get older, and you'll see. So just make sure you're properly compensated for that little piece of yourself that you're selling, because you're not going to get it back. So what can we do away with selling and think of educating, communicating, helping? No, you're selling. You see, you're trying to get out of it. You're trying to release your own kind of anxiety from it by saying, this is not what I'm doing. No, you're selling. Now, selling can include educating and communicating and helping, but that's all nice. And I appreciate it and it sounds good, but you've forgotten the most important part. So can we maybe do away with selling? Okay. Can we maybe do away with money? Because you need to sell. It's got to be a part of your identity. And so the people's identities, right? When I shut my eyes, I'm thinking about a whole bunch of things, right? When you close your eyes and you're trying to meditate, you're thinking about your day, right? Your time, you're going to time travel a little bit. You're going to be thinking about today. You're going to be thinking about yesterday. And you're going to be thinking about, in this case, no worries. So let's say that's your name, right? So no worries. I am the type of person who, right? You're trying to, while you're meditating, there's a lot of thoughts that are going through your head, but the ones that are the most recurring are time traveling, meetings I had yesterday, today, other things I've got to do. He said this, I said that. But it's also, I am the type of person who, right? And now you've got to figure out your own identity to yourself. So your identity, you're saying, is that educating, communicating, and helping. No, my identity is selling. And that's just a part of it. So then you're also saying, well, I've got my eyes shut, but I can imagine people looking at me, right? It's just a part of a person's identity, and it's part of that vulnerability of having your eyes closed. Is you're saying, you're thinking to yourself, people who are seeing me, I want Adam, or in your case, no worries, is the type of person who, right? This is all natural. It occurs within everybody. So I say to myself, Adam is the type of person who, and then I also say, Adam, me talking to myself, is a type of person who, I want people to think of me as the type of person who, and then you're projecting onto somebody, this invisible person is looking upon you, who is then saying, Adam is the type of person who, right? So I want them to say, Adam is the type of person who can get deals closed. I truly do. And that's my own part of my identity. So you can't get away from that, man. You're a woman. You're shying away from it. So Red Wizard, again, thank you so much for being here. I can't see that picture. Well, I'd like to see that picture. It looks like a statue and perhaps a child with you. So I had my biggest close this week. Each time it happens, it's exhausting, but the feeling is unreal. Yeah, it's emotionally satisfying because you recognize it as part of your identity. So there's a real fulfillment. There's just a real kind of almost a spiritual quality of it because it's so much a part of your identity and you've been giving it away. So it's nice to get both the recognition of closing a deal, the money from closing a deal, and that sense of kind of you applied this discretionary effort and it worked. And you also, I don't know if you work in an office, but you also want people applauding, right? Come on, we got to be honest. It's good to be the king. The real Neil, how